Welcome, everybody. It's Wyman and Bob. This is Seattle Sports on 710 and SeattleSports.com. We are live at the Virginia Mason Athletic Center where the big news happening today. If for some reason you are just tuning in and you're not aware of what's happening, Pete Carroll is no longer the head coach. A mutual decision, as he put it in the press conference. We'll play a bunch of audio from that, but mutual decision was made that he would no longer occupy that head coaching spot. He will remain with the organization in some capacity that is yet to be defined. But I don't know, Dave, you and I had been talking about that. Everybody was talking about it. You know, when the team in any sport doesn't succeed, the person in charge is where everybody looks. And, you know, what are they going to – what's this guy doing? What's the message? What's the – you know, and he's been here so long. I think as much as we even talked about is the message still getting through? Is he still the right guy for the job? When you wake up and you see he's no longer the head coach, it was abrupt. It was surreal.
It really was, and I think even the rest of the NFL world basically was caught by surprise. Lots of people, you know, I was watching NFL Network at the time, and they're like, wow, big surprise. You know, nobody really expected that. So, you know, I got to say, I sat in the press conference 2 rows back just because that's the only seat that was available.
I couldn't get in.
Yeah, I mean, it was...
it was mobbed.
It was, and there were people from upstairs that came down.
Yeah.
I don't know all the players over there, but I know Gino and Bobby were there.
Yeah.
And, yeah, and so those guys were sitting in the front row. A lot of the guys that, you know what, basically I saw pretty much everybody I see on the plane.
Yeah.
You know, the trainers, and John Schneider, of course, was there, and his staff, Nolan Teasley. You know, the place was just packed, and they're just blasting music, which is the way Pete likes it. And then, you know, Pete comes down and gets up on stage. And I got to say, man, that was really well done by Pete. He was phenomenal. He was just exactly who he is, you know, what you hear from him all the time. And at one point, you know, and I got to say, I got choked up. I mean, especially in, you know, having the relationship I've had with my wife and how she supports me and everything. And when he, you know, talked about his MVP and the person who by far, you know, was there for him always, he mentioned his wife, Glenna.
Yeah.
And it was very cool moment. And Pete entirely choked up and crying. And, you know, it's just very cool. That's the way, you know, what I always say about Pete, you know, his sort of mantra is let it rip. You know, let it go and let everything out there, every emotion. Don't be afraid to, you know, to cry or to get emotional about things. And that was the thing about Pete. And that's why he's such a great, unbelievable motivator. And you could just hear the respect from, you know, the media and you know, and he kind of joked about, you guys made it tough on me for, you know, for a while. And, yeah, but I mean, shoot, there wasn't a lot to be tough about because the guy took, you know, us to the playoffs 10 of 14 seasons. So, and I was talking about that all last week, that it's more than everybody other than Belichick, as far as people that have been here for 10 years or less. You know, you look at John Harbaugh, you look at Mike Tomlin. You know, I think Mike Tomlin has 11 trips in 17 years or 18 years. And, you know, Belichick, obviously 18 trips in 24 seasons. They're not going this year. John Harbaugh is another one that, you know, but still, I think Belichick's the only one that has a higher sort of percentage going in. So, yeah, he's just done a great job, and I know his players just love him, and he's going to be one of those guys that keeps in touch with all of those guys. But like I said, Bobby and Gino there, yeah, the entire staff, everybody cares so much about this guy, and yeah, he's just one of those guys that makes you feel like $1 million.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I talked to Mark Schlereth, and he's like, you know, every once in a while you'll talk to Pete and go, hey, did we just become best friends? I mean, and there's been a couple of times. I mean, look, he can't talk to everybody, right? And, you know, but he gives himself, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, I was walking back, I went to the bathroom, and he's sitting in one of the little cramped seats there because he lets his players sit up in first class. And he looks up, and we had a nice conversation, and, you know, it just makes you like, I went back and like, I just talked to Pete. It was awesome. You know?
He's so cool.
Yeah.
Have you ever talked to him? He's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, just out of the blue, we'll do that and come over and talk. You know, he's so available, and a guy who really just had such an amazing effect on everybody that he worked with and the people that covered him. And, I know Rabes and him are pretty tight. And, Steve Rabel, I'm trying to get Steve to maybe call in and see if he can talk about him a little bit. We're efforting a few people.
Where's Rabes in the building? He can't walk over to the room here with us?
I don't know if he's in the building. Maybe
he's too much of a big shot?
He is a big shot. But
I thought somebody said he was here. Maybe he wasn't.
He is here.
He is here.
I saw him, and so maybe he's up there talking to Pete or something. But we'll hopefully get a chance to talk to him, and I got a couple other phone calls into some people just to kind of reflect on Pete and what's done. But
just to let people know, Brock Heward will join us at 3:00.
Okay.
We'll talk with Brock today. Robert Turbin will join us at 5:00 just to get perspective from these guys, and as you said, efforting other people is obviously we're had a show planned and scrapping everything and kind of on the fly, trying to put everything together to respond to this. But I think what you hit on with Pete is whether you loved him or you didn't love him, you loved his personality, you didn't love it, it was real. He was genuine.
Yes.
I don't mean to speak past tense like he's no longer with us. He's still with us. He is genuine. I remember when he first got hired, I loved it. I was in LA. I was covering him with USC.
Oh.
So I was down there. It was national radio, but I was going to USC games. And I talked to Pete a number of times and loved him down there. And obviously he was a rock star down there. I remember thinking when he took this Sox job, like, why would you do that? You own this city. They don't have a pro team here. The Trojans are the pro team. You're national champion. You're in your. I mean, he was developing that sort of Saban-esque, persona out there where everything he touched turns to gold. He just wins, and he was a legitimate rock star in Los Angeles. Why would you want to mess with this? But he went to Seattle, and I remember talking to friends. Hey, what do you think? And they're like, yeah, I don't know if that rah-rah stuff works here. I'm not, it was very lukewarm. And I was like, wow, I love this, but only because I had been around him in LA. And now you fast forward and 14 years he's been here. And I think it's safe to say he's the greatest professional head coach in Seattle sports history. I think that's fair to say. I mean, there's been a lot of great coaches. You can talk about Panella, you can talk about George Karl with the Sonics, you can talk about Mike Holmgren, pro teams. I mean, obviously Don James occupies a huge space with the Huskies, but I'm not talking collegiate. I'm talking just pro teams here in the city of Seattle. I think he's the greatest coach in the history of pro sports. He brought you a title. He brought you a Super Bowl. Maybe somebody wants to throw in Lenny Wilkins. He brought the Sonics a title back in '79. Pete gets there back-to-back years, playoffs, 10 of 14 years that he's here. To me, that would be my choice. For me, it's an easy answer. Best pro coach in the history of Seattle professional sports, Pete Carroll.